to medical terminology for the gastrointestinal system. There are a number of objectives for this section of our medical terminology course. So first, we're going to get a detailed view of the GI system. And I know we've seen this a little bit generically already, but we're going to get a detailed and name very specific parts. We're also going to look at the accessory organs of digestion. Then we're going to take a look at the order of having food from start to finish, mouth to anus. We're going to look at new medical term parts, so make sure you have your word list printed. We have new medical terminology words practice. We're going to look at some diseases of digestion. And then last but not least, we do have some abbreviations related to the digestive system. Let's first look at the parts of the GI or gastrointestinal system. So we start here with the mouth. So we see this open set of lips, and we're going to name up some of those different components. The medical term that refers to the mouth, if you look at your word list, is the term oro, O-R-O, oro. Next, let's take a look at the lips. The first medical term that refers to the lips are Celio. Celio. An alternate to this would be Labio. Labio. So our purposes today, you're going to be looking at both of these terms that refers to the lips of the mouth. Next, let's look at the gums. Most of us probably know what the gums are, but the term here is gingivo. Gingivo. Next, the tongue, right? The little organ, it's actually a muscle that sits on the bottom of your mouth. It does help with pushing food down the digestive tract. And the first term for the tongue is linguo, linguo, and the second is glosso, G-L-O-S-S-O. So linguo and glosso. Next, let's look at the teeth. We're not going to name the teeth individually for this unit as it's really about medical terminology, but the term dento, right, dento, a slight variation on that is denti with the I, right, as the combining vowel. And odonto are all terms that we can use to refer to the teeth. Next, let's look at the roof of the mouth. So if you're to go behind the upper teeth and sort of put your fingers up there, you can feel that it's hard. There's a little bit of a bone up there. That bone is often referred to as the palate. So the roof of the mouth med term is palato, P-A-L-A-T, with the combining vowel of O. Next, let's look at the cheeks or the sides of this mouth or the oral cavity. The term for cheeks, the medical term for cheeks is bucco, B-U-C-C-O. Next, let's move on to the tonsils. They look like these little yellow dots. They're not quite that prominent in real life. I just did that so that you can see, where they hang out towards the side. But most of us know our bigger tonsils towards the back of our throat. And the medical term here is pretty straightforward. The medical term is tonsillo. Tonsillo. So now once we've gotten food through the mouth and the different parts that we've named, we are going to swallow. And when that tongue swallows, it's going to push down the food into the esophagus, which is the very long tube that you see here. So it goes from the mouth down through the chest cavity, doesn't actually end in the chest cavity, and then goes down and ends at the stomach, okay, for the food to be next. So esophago refers to that nice long tube that you see that gets the food from your mouth all the way down to the stomach. And the term for the stomach we've seen in almost every chapter now. It is the term gastro. So the term gastro is coming back again for this chapter. After the food has gone through the mouth, down the esophagus and into the stomach, we are next headed into the small intestines. The term for the small intestines is entero. So if you see the root term entero, we're generally referring to the small intestine portion. And it is called the small intestine because it is very small in diameter. So it's a very thin tube compared to the next part we're going to see, the large intestine. It is, however, very long, very close to about 30 feet, and it's all coiled up inside of your abdomen. There are 3 parts to the small intestine. So let's name the 3 parts of the small intestine in order. And this is a pretty basic fact for anatomy, physiology, and medical terminology. So the first part of the small intestine is referred to as the duodenum. The duodenum. And if you're English, you might hear the duodenum, and that's okay. Either one is acceptable. Next is the jejunum. And third is the ileum. So the 3 parts of the small intestine in order are the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. After our food is done traveling through the small intestine, it is going to go through the large intestine. And the large intestine is named because of its diameter. So it's a very, very wide diameter. However, it is much shorter than the small intestine at about 5 feet, maybe just a little over, compared to about the 30 feet of the small intestine. There's also a few more parts to the large intestine. And we often refer to it as the colon. Colono, okay, would be the root term. So you can see here on the left side of your screen, which is actually the right side of you, if you remember back to Unit 1 and 2, when we look at different diagrams, that very first part where the food enters is that initial pouch there, which is called the cecum. The cecum. Food then travels up the right side of your body, and the term to move up is the term ascending, and we refer to that portion as the ascending colon. So it literally to come up. We then take a turn from the right, come across the abdomen, and head towards the left side of the body. And we refer to that as the transverse colon. And in fact, trans means to go across. So literally to travel across. Next, we're going to come down the left side of the body. And so to come down is the term to descend. So the portion that comes down the left side of the body is the descending colon. It then kind of takes what I like to refer to as the S curve. So it almost makes like a little S shape. And that helps you to remember the name of this portion of the colon. It is the sigmoid colon when it starts to make this little S curve. It then straightens out, and we refer to it as the rectum. At the very end, we've got this last little portion, and it is mostly a circular muscle that controls this component. We refer to this little circular muscle that ends the large intestine as the anus. Altogether, when we're looking at the portions of where the food enters from the mouth, goes down the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and then exits the body, we refer to that whole portion from entrance to exit as the alimentary canal. So if you ever see that term, alimentary canal, it is entrance to exit for food.